Good
afternoon, everyone. I, Sneha, on behalf of NEN and Wadhwani Foundation, would like to invite you all for this webinar and also introduce our expert, Mr. Sanjay Mehta. He is a serial entrepreneur in the new age business of internet, e-commerce, social media, and the like. The internet came to India in 1996, and he has been an internet entrepreneur since 1997. In other words, he perhaps has as much hands-on experience on internet businesses as anyone could possibly have in India. At this time, Sanjay is the founder and joint CEO of Social Wavelength, one of the largest pure-play social media agencies in India. He is also a mentor to many budding entrepreneurs and is associated with mentoring activities with TIE, Mentor Edge Network, IIM Ahmedabad, and Indian Angel Network and others. Before I hand over the floor to Sanjay, here are a few reminders for the audience. You will all be on mute. You may ask questions by typing in the panel provided. Over to you, Sanjay.
Good afternoon, everybody. As you're aware, the topic of the day is around risk-taking and what it means to entrepreneurs. There is this feeling that entrepreneurship and risk-taking are virtually synonymous of each other. To a large extent, that may be true. And in many ways, there are some differences of understanding and opinion, and which is what we will try to understand, and I'll try to highlight from my perspective as we go through this talk and the few slides which I have put on here. So clearly there is risk at every stage of an organization or of a company. So it's not just a question of being at an early stage or at a later stage. At a very early stage, a lot of projects, a lot of ventures which are planned, sometimes they don't even get started because for whatever reason, before they actually take any shape, they are wound up. So there is a, so to say, the risk of a still death of very early stage ventures. Many a times there's a large amount of early stage ventures which also fail and get wound up also. So it's not just a question of failing and then taking off again, but just wind up, just close the business, doesn't happen at all, which you may equate as a kind of an infant mortality, very early stages, and there's a lot of that in entrepreneurship. As one grows and the venture is becoming bigger, you're at a growth stage, you still unfortunately as a kind of a entrepreneurship, as a venture, as a business venture, until you reach any level of maturity, there is a risk of survival. And even at growth stage, you still need to survive first and prosper later. So the ultimate risk is the risk of survival. If you are not there, then everything is meaningless. So first is to secure the survival of your venture. It's only at a later or a mature stage that perhaps one may not risk of survival, but you may still have a risk of becoming irrelevant. And some of the biggest companies have gone through this challenge. So whether, in recent days, if you think of companies like BlackBerry or even Nokia, they, from being leaders in their respective spaces, have suddenly found themselves at having challenges which may have made them, if not irrelevant, but a much lesser player in their respective businesses. So when we think of a venture, be it very early stage or mature stage, there are risks and there are downsides to the risk across various levels, and which needs to be understood. But more from an entrepreneurship side, more from the very early stage and up to the growth stage, what one needs to be largely concerned about from a business point of view is that there is a risk of survival, and how do you mitigate it, how do you prepare for it, how do you not get taken by surprise. These are the questions which we need to decide. So if you look at first at the early stage of startups, why do we have a risk? What are the reasons for a lot of ventures not progressing beyond that early stage. At the very outset, many a times entrepreneurs start up a venture for potentially all the wrong reasons. So the kind of wrong reasons one may think of is that, oh gosh, I'm bored with my job, I should start something of my own. Or, I want to be the master of my time and my efforts. I don't want to work for anybody, let me start a venture. Or, I have this idea, maybe I should become an entrepreneur. Those could be interesting thoughts, but those are not adequate, they're not enough for, creating a venture of your own, creating a startup business. If one has started up on a new venture with minimal reasons, and that's not the right reasons, there is every chance that from the very outset, the venture is doomed to failure. So, first of all, you need to be starting up for the right reasons. That's the key. The second aspect would be a basic challenge in the business model. And this is, again, what hampers a lot of startups. You may have a great idea, but is it, let's say, a scalable idea? Is it something where money can be made? Is it something which can attain? Does it have ability to fund itself and continue to support the resources which are going to go in? Classic cases are in the case of, let's say, tech, and let's say creating a venture which is based on creating some great mobile tool or an application. So kind of to figure out what you're building, is it a good feature, is it an application, or is it a product, is it an accessory to something else? If it's just an interesting feature and you think that, I have a business around it and I'll invest so much and I'll put so much time and I'll do something, maybe it was not something which could sustain by itself. Maybe it was best done as an add-on to an existing platform. Or, for example, you come up with this brilliant idea where you're going to offer something for free. Do you have an understanding that there is a way to ultimately make money also out of that, so that the business can sustain? So, there are lots and lots of questions around that. So if the business model itself is a challenge, again, there is a risk that the business may not sustain, or it may not even take off. The third kind of reasons for a sort of a failure at an early stage is finance. Are you adequately funded from your own self, from your whatever other resources that you are going to have funds from? So while the ecosystem around funding has happened and there are a lot of different financing models which are out there, getting funded whether by venture capital or angel investors or anybody else is easier said than done, and it may often take more time than you anticipated. Maybe it doesn't happen. So whenever you're starting out, and at least you say that I need to get to X level, like a proof of concept or getting into creating revenues or whatever, till that time, if I need to fund myself or I need to get funding, do I have a good feel from where it's going to come? And if not, then I go halfway or I go 3/4 of the way, and I certainly don't have money to fund it further. And where else to go? You need money for paying your people, you need money for various other things. You don't have, you basically run out of money. Again, there is a risk of the venture not going forward. So figuring out the whole financing options for your business so as to avoid that risk of failure that you run out of money is important. Many times there are challenges in the team itself that as let's say the founding team, sometimes few friends get together and start a business. Sometimes classmates of an MBA program or an engineering program decide to get together and start. What's important is, do everybody think alike? Do all of the team of the founding team, especially on issues like how far are we going to go without taking a salary for ourselves? Are we comfortable not taking money home what are our basic cultural, what are our priorities. Based on that, does the team think alike on the subject? So obviously and naturally there will be a lot of challenges as you build out a business. When the challenges come, do the founders think alike on a fundamental base? Or there are differences of opinion. Now, if you can't get along with your partners, then how are you going to build and grow a business? So a lot of times, startups again land up having issues when the founding team sort of has differences of opinion, and then rather than focusing on building a business, they are focused at managing relationship between each other and stuff like that. And this is a real challenge. Sometimes you may not even think of this as a challenge, but I assure you that a lot of businesses I've seen where challenges have happened because the founding team cannot get along with each other or something like that. There is also the next big challenge in the area of sales and marketing. And why I highlighted to such an extent on a slide around the risk is because a lot of our entrepreneurs in our country, especially in the new age businesses, are tech entrepreneurs, people who are programmers, people who understand technology, and they're probably great at building code or building a product, but the last thing they like is to go and sell. Because to go and sell, you have to actually go and tell somebody, hey, I'm going to give some money for it. And a techie does not enjoy doing that. So you build a great product, but maybe even if you are 2, 3, 4 of you, you're building a great product, all of you are techies, nobody wants to go and say, okay, no, I'll take care of the sales and marketing. None of them do it. So you have a great product, it's in your office, it's in your workshop. Nobody knows about it because you're not marketed. You've gone and given it for free, you've not asked for money, and the venture doesn't take off. So these have been some of the key. Sorry, I mixed up when I mentioned team challenges, I was probably referring to the team in terms of getting the right kind of resources on board. So if you need a creative guy, you need a great techie, you need a good salesperson, something like that. Getting the right team on board, especially as a startup when you can't pay top-notch salaries and compensation, and yet you need the best sales guy on your team. How do you get them? If you don't get them, you don't move forward. That was the earlier referral to the team challenges. Partnership issues is what I was talking earlier, that between the co-founders, the misgivings or the differences of opinions also often hurt the business. All of these are reasons why early stage startups spend a significant risk in those early days. Once you kind of focus and get all of these under control and you move into the next level of a growth stage, then all of these probably become a little less, because you would have got your business model right, you would have got your sales and marketing right, you would have found a good working relationship between your co-founders, and you would have got your core team in place and financing would have been in place. Then a different set of challenges may still come to you in terms of risk, but the ones which are on this slide are largely risks which are affecting early stage startups. So when you are working on that business, in order to assess the risk, there may be some questions you need to ask for yourself about your business and about your venture, in the sense of a what if this went off. So even if you think that you got like a great business plan in place, you worked out the details, you got your finances in place, you figured out your sales strategy, you figured out who's going to pay you X, Y, Z, whatever, you still want to ask a few questions that things may not quite pan out as you plan, as you would like it to happen. Some things may go wrong, when you least expect it. So in scenarios like this, what are the issues which can go wrong? So what if you don't get funded, or what if you don't get funded soon enough? What's your plan B in that case? So if you were to get, you had planned that I'll reach this stage and by that time I should get funded, and if that funding doesn't come through, is there a plan B where you can get some money from some friends and family or relatives, or from your college, or from some bank or whatever, If not, have you kept a buffer aside that if you thought in 12 months you should get funded and it takes 15 months, then you have a way to carry forward for another 3 months without impacting survival of the startup? So think that. What if a competitor springs up from nowhere? Now, this also is when you think you have that new idea which has not been done ever before, and you are working hard to, maybe make the prototype or create the software or whatever. Now, the fact is that just when you are thinking in that sense, maybe there are other people who are also thinking like maybe somebody else is also on the drawing board creating the same kind of a concept. Why should ideas be unique to you? So maybe there are other people also who are thinking the same way, and maybe they get to the finishing line first. Maybe by the time you're still fine-tuning and finishing up your product, somebody already goes out and introduces that idea. So if your entrepreneurial venture was based on that unique idea, which you thought you had to get there first, and actually somebody beats you to the line, then what would you do? What's your what-if plan in that case? Are you ready to sort of go out and compete or what? Now, if you choose to compete in that scenario, what if you had a certain business plan where you said you would be selling your product or a software or whatever at price X? Now the competitor not only comes up, but he prices his product at a much lower price than you thought you would price yourself. So what do? How do you rework numbers? How do you still make yourself as an interesting proposition? How do you build value? How do you build a differential to your competitor? All of these are very real scenarios. All of these generate with them a sense of risk to your venture, and you need to prepare for it. One of the things which can go wrong often is the development cycle. So this is the kind of code I need to build, or this is the kind of prototype, or whatever I need to build. I think it should happen in 12 months. Now you run into problems. Maybe something's go wrong. Maybe you are misestimated. Maybe your key programmer goes away midway and you have to start all over again. Any of this could happen. Now, what you were thinking of getting it in 12 months, everything was planned accordingly. You had budgeted for that kind of a time, and in reality, it doesn't happen. It takes a lot more time. Again, what if? Are you ready for that? What is the downside? What is the risk which you're taking if that happens? And in all that, while there is the risk at the venture, so the entrepreneurial venture itself will face the risk because of all these scenarios, what's the personal risk that you have as an individual? Because you are the entrepreneur. What is your risk in scenarios like this? So is there a family who's dependent on your income maybe? So you're saying that I'm, instead of going and taking up a job which will give me a nice check at the end of every month, I'm going to become an entrepreneur, which means that I don't have a income, and I may not have a guaranteed income for the next 24 months maybe. Is there a family whom you are putting under stress because you are not able to give that income? Is there a length of that you have budgeted that even if I don't bring in a rupee of income home for the next 4 months, my family or whoever is dependent on me are covered. I don't need to worry. So now if you have planned for it for say 24 months, maybe because you have some savings or maybe you have some other resources of money, you should plan for a lot more time than you expect to take. So if you think you're going to go online with a product out there in 12 months, are you covered with income for your for your family for 24 months maybe? Because things may not pan out right, maybe things take a lot longer. Have you thought through that? You should not be putting your family under too much pressure, because again, that's the kind of stress that can put an entrepreneur under almost like depression, because what you want when you're building a new venture, what you want is definitely your mind has to be at least from other respect. You have enough stress building your venture out. When you go home in the evening or in the night after a hard day's work, you want that there is comfort, there is peace there. But if your family is being put under pressure because there's no income and there's challenge, then it's not the best of situation for you as an entrepreneur to be building a new business. So that's something which is to be thought through really well. often what happens is that, you're already working, and while having, started out working somewhere and earned some salary, you are already having some EMIs which you are servicing. For example, maybe you went and bought a house, or maybe you have got a car or something for which monthly EMIs need to be paid out. Now, this often happens when there is a working professional after 3, 4, 5 years, hard enough of working life. I want to start a venture of my own, and they jump into an entrepreneurship career. What they will start missing immediately are the end of the month checks, which are servicing their various EMIs, the car and the flat and everything. Now, while often, they say the grass is always greener on the other side. So when you're working and getting a nice check every month, there is a sense that, oh, I wish I was an entrepreneur. It's so much fun to be your own boss. But when you get there, you start missing that comfort of a check every month. And if that happens, are you ready to sort of sacrifice your lifestyle? Is it okay to not be going out to a fancy restaurant on the weekend? Is it okay to not go on a foreign vacation with your family that year, or not go on vacation at all? There are kind of things which you used to do because you had a good income month after month, and now you don't because you're an entrepreneur, you're building your business. Are you and your family willing to take those sacrifices on? Because it's that good life which you got used to. If you and your family do not have the guts to sacrifice that, you will start missing it very quickly, and which will then make you feel like, oh my God, did I do the right thing by becoming an entrepreneur? Maybe I should just go back and take up a job again. So that's the risk which you are taking at a personal level in that case, whether you really want to be an entrepreneur or not. So this whole myth that entrepreneurship and risk taking are the same. That so that's a feeling that entrepreneurs are like gamblers. They go and take a lot of risk, and it's because they are able to gamble, and some bets fall right, and that's why they succeed, and that's why some of them end up making a lot of money. Now, risk is definitely there, but the real fact is that the entrepreneur is actually expected to de-risk the business once he starts out. There is a risk in going into an entrepreneurship sort of pursuit, but once you are an entrepreneur and you have started to build a business, you really don't want to take steps which can significantly harm the business itself. Which means that if in the course of building a business there are choices, different decisions which need to be taken, should I follow option A or option B? If one of them has a risk of potentially destroying your business if it doesn't go right, you are most likely to take the other one. But now, once you're into the venture, there are stakeholders involved other than yourself. So there are maybe some investors, even if the investors are your friends and family who have given you 10 lakh, 20 lakh, something to start your business, or it is an angel investor who has put ₹1 crore or something like that. You are responsible to them. You are owing something to them. You may have other shareholders, maybe some of the smart employees who have joined you. Instead of offering them a good salary, you have given them small stake in the business. Your employees who have trusted you on your word and who have joined you on the journey. You have your early stage customers, maybe who have gone and bought your software and who are dependent on you for servicing it. And you also owe it to your family because they have sacrificed while you have gone and pursued an entrepreneurship option. Now, to all of them, it cannot happen that you go as an entrepreneur and take that big gamble and it's like a pack of cards, it just collapses. You cannot do that. So as you actually get into entrepreneurship, you're on a constant basis looking to see that whatever decisions you're taking, whatever next moves you're making, they are in fact hedging you against risk in the sense that every move, okay, worst case, it will will not give me sales for next 2 months. Okay, that's my downside. It won't happen that suddenly something else will happen. So you always take bets of those kind where you know the downside is some risk, but not a risk to collapse. So what are the kind of things that I'm talking about? Like, so you say, let me change my business model. So all of a sudden you decide to change your business model. Now that's a risk, but you don't know whether the same business model which you're trying to do is going to work or not work. And if it doesn't work, and it completely is your business for survival. Or you say, okay, I'm doing this, now let me start this also. So you have a classic case of a business which we know in Mumbai itself, who are fundamentally an agency who are into the servicing of client business where they service clients, and they were pretty successful business. They had built up a size of 100, 150 people and doing pretty good stuff. And at some point they suddenly felt that the services business is not giving enough money and maybe we should build out a product of our own. And they came about thinking that, okay, this is the kind of product we should build. They got the idea and all validated, and they started building the product. Now, product building takes time, effort, money. So they started, withdrawing money from their services business and kept on investing into the product. And the product, they thought that it would happen in 6 months, 12 months with so and so budget. Unfortunately, by the time they kept putting the money into the product, it required more money, it required more time. So they kept, having gone to halfway, having gone to 3/4 way, it was not possible for them to stop funding it because they already put so much money. So they kept taking more money from their other business, kept investing it into the product. Now what happens? The product has yet to get completed. The services business has got drained out of a lot of its working capital. They are finding it hard to meet their commitments of payments to their vendors. They are finding it hard to pay salaries to the people who are working in the services business. And the product is still not ready. Even after the product gets ready, there's a whole cycle by which it will go out, be shown to potential customers, become successful, get started to sell. All this time, they have hurt the existing business model in a complete situation. The reality is, I won't name the business, but the reality is that the business has got almost completely destroyed in doing so. So that's the kind of change and that's the kind of sudden risk that I am referring to here, that's not the kind of stuff which entrepreneurs do. Even if supposing in the same scenario, as a services company, one wanted to build a product, there had to be a sense of discipline that this is the kind of money which I will keep aside, and this is the only money which I will keep aside. I will not starve my basic business. I will make sure that the services business continues to be well funded and continues to run. And that's basically the way in which we will build out the new business, if at all. But it didn't happen in this case, and it kind of ended up risking the entire business. So, broad summary on this, on the risk-taking talk is that, all these slides which I have shared earlier so far, I don't want to give a hint that I am discouraging entrepreneurship. By focusing on risk and by focusing on a whole lot of things which could go wrong, I'm not for even a moment trying to say that, do not be an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for many years. I love being as an entrepreneur, and I encourage entrepreneurship, meet and mentor a lot of young and budding entrepreneurs. So I definitely encourage entrepreneurship. But we are talking about risk taking, and I shared things can go on. But recognizing at the outset when you get started that, okay, here are some of the things which can go wrong. Here's how much money I will need. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's the whole plan. Think the ifs, what ifs, the downside. Then basically keep that preparation ready and completely focus on what you're doing. So the risk definitely exists, but like I said, that is the DNA of an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur, if anything, has the ability to take some risks. and nothing venture is very much of which are relevant in an entrepreneur's career. Just recognizing the risk, understanding what kind of a time is involved in the risk, taking on, be pessimistic and not feeling scared. Oh my God, what if this goes wrong? Oh my God, that goes wrong. Not like that, but not just to with not what is courage. Just to be knowing what can go wrong and working hard to make sure that it doesn't go wrong. So once these risks are understood and clear, then working on a good, strong business model and fight on. Make sure it happens. Make sure that the downside doesn't happen. Make sure you succeed. That's what an entrepreneur needs to do. So with that, I mean, of course, I presume a lot of you who are listening are budding entrepreneurs. So my best wishes to everybody, and happy to take on questions. That's my blog, Grey Hats. One of my blogs is a blog which is connected to, where I review some startups and business models and all. I have other blogs, but I have referred only one of them here. And it was at SM63 is my Twitter handle. Feel free to connect to me on Twitter. Open to questions.
We'll start with the Q&A now. Our first question is from Ashfaq Ahmad. He says, what could be the common right reasons to start the venture? What checklist could you recommend from your experience to decide whether to go for a venture or not, if you have an idea, in response to your point of starting for all wrong reasons?
Right. So, I mean, I will try to answer this question briefly, but I would recommend a really good book which answers these questions in the first half of the book. It's the book by Subrata Bagchi, and it's called The High Performance Entrepreneur or something like that. I think if you just look up Subrata Bagchi and his books, The High Performance Entrepreneur, if I'm not mistaken, that's the title. He spends a lot of pages just discussing the various wrong reasons and the right reasons why somebody could be an entrepreneur. So while I will take a shot at answering the question, I would also recommend to refer to this book, which is really, really good. In terms of my feeling that fundamentally, there has to be a business model which appears viable. That's the whole story. Now, it doesn't mean that you not need to make money from day one. If you think that your venture is such that for 5 years you will not make money, it is building up to X level, and then 6th year, 7th, 8th year onwards you start money, and 10th year you'll make tons and tons of money, which is fine as long as you are alert to that, you are aware that that's the model, and you have enough capacity to fund it for that 5 years when you're not doing it. So that's what I'm saying. There's a business model. Now, somebody might say that, look, something like an Instagram did not make money and yet it sold for $1 billion and all that. Perfectly right. So if that's your way, again, I also meet a lot of people who have great ideas of this kind of, I'm not saying Instagram, but I'm just generally saying that a great web product or a great mobile product or something. So, obviously, again, you need to be funded to run it so that it builds volume. When does a Facebook get interested in something like Instagram? When it has got several millions of users there, not the 2,000, not the 5,000 friends and family and a little bit extra who have come and use it. So ensure that if you're doing a model of that kind, that it can go to really large volumes of registered users or whatever, and it is compelling enough for people to keep coming back, and then you have the funds to take it to the river if you're not doing money. But those are the few and far between. More often than not, your business model will be something where you will want to earn out the same business and support it. So basically ensure that there is a business all around it and get it vetted from one or two mentors or well-wishers who can assess it independently. So it's like, for example, I am sitting and I say, I wish there was a business which would deliver, wine to me at my home. Now, which is fine. So I think, okay, it's not there. Let me start a business with that. The reality is that, is there enough number of people who think like that? Are there enough number of people who feel that it's a good idea to have wine delivered at home, and hence there's a business opportunity? So your own wishes and your own requirements are necessarily not the only reason why you think there's a business opportunity out there. Is that need for a large enough number of people? And of course, then the whole economics of it, and whether people will be willing to put out of money, whether you will be able to deliver in less than that, whether there is a large opportunity there, and what it takes. So basically figuring out the business model, then have enough funds to support it till you reach that point of making. And basically that's the simple part. It's not, it goes way beyond an idea. It's not just about an idea. The idea translated into a viable business model is what I'm talking about. Yeah. Next question.
Question is from Tej. He asks, what is the minimum product or feature set we should have before investing time and money to reach out to customers, especially to a web-based startup?
Not an easy question to answer, because it's all subjective and it's a case-to-case scenario. But principally, you will reach out to open it up to a customer, especially if you are trying to do something new and different. You'll open it up to a customer at a point of time where there is a sense where the customer will feel impressed. So it's not about making a marginal difference to an existing scenario. So supposing you say, there is there is an e-commerce shop selling products. So I'll sell baby products, but I'll do this little bit extra also. Now that little bit extra or a little marginal feature difference or a product difference is not something that will get really noticed to the customer. It may not be something which will differentiate you enough in the consumer's eye even if he notices. So get out there in front of a customer at a point where you feel that he will see that, wow, this is something interesting. So it may not be your exhaustive feature list which you want to build ultimately, but there's enough out there to create a sense of feeling that, yeah, this is something interesting. I need to come back and experience this level. I mean, at that level, you would in your own respective, whatever you are trying to do, and depending on it. Next question.
He says, can you throw some light on how to form a good team? Because he belongs from an advertising firm and he hasn't found somebody who has so much passion about working in advertising and branding.
I didn't get the question. Can you repeat the question? I think I missed the early part of the question.
So Sai Krishna asks that how to form a good team, as in he has an advertising business in Hyderabad and he hasn't found anybody who is passionate about his or her work in advertising or branding. So if you could just throw some light on how to form a good team.
Okay. So whatever kind of, supposing you're running advertising services, you have to verify for members are available, and doubt that advertising type of skill will not be available. They will definitely be available. So make sure that whatever, so I'm giving a generic answer which could potentially be useful to other listeners also. So the point is that whatever be the business which you're building and for which you need the skills, ensure that they're available in the place where you are. So if you need a certain kind of specific skills and you are in a town where it's not there, maybe if it's so critical, either you need to source them from wherever they are and them to where you are, or have remote workers, or or move our business elsewhere if that's the case. In the case of Sai, that's not the question. I'm sure advertising skills are available in Hyderabad. But that's the point one. Point two is that you're starting out, you're an entrepreneur, you probably do not have, I don't know, maybe you don't have a lot of money to offer to somebody. Maybe you're offering them a stake in the business. Maybe you're offering them a dream of being a founding team of a startup, which is quite exciting, which is very different. So you need to sell your business and your dream and your venture as much to team members as you would sell to a customer. You have to show them the vision that, look, come on board and we are building this great thing and be a part of it. Be a part of this journey. It is exciting. You'll love it, and let's do it together. I think that's the key. More often than not, that is the thing which will sell and get you your initial founding team members. That are they also excited by you, by your passion, and by the way you can show the dream to them. If you're in advertising, I hope and I presume that you're pretty good at spinning stories and spinning creative ways to tell your story. Then if the case is there, first realize your own self-venture and attract the right kind of people who join you on board and get yourself started. I think that's the most important key, and which is you have to show your passion and you have to see. Okay, the fact is that startups are not everybody's cup of tea, even from a team member point of view. So you have to be sure that you are attracting the right kind of person. If there is a person who is very clearly interested in the comforts and so to say the pleasures of life, where he wants he wants a lot of admin support, infrastructure support, and then he can perform well, that person is probably best suited for a large company and not for a startup space. But there are people who are more excited by building things out and being on their own and creating something new, and are okay to let go of creature comforts. They're okay to get up and get their own glass of water or make their own cup of tea or whatever it is, even though they may be seniors. That's the kind of front on board, because that's the startup team member and not a corporate team member. So get the right kind of culture fit. After that, sell them your vision, inspire them, motivate them, and you can be on. Yeah. Next question.
Hi, the next question is from
he
Vishal. He asks, anticipating risk and planning mitigation can be an endless process, needing a lot of time and money. How to decide into much depth one should go?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, can you slowly repeat the question? It's a pretty long question, so let me understand what the question really is.
Sure. Vishal asks, anticipating risks and planning mitigation can be an endless process, needing a lot of time and money. How to decide into how much depth one should go?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, you obviously not want to get into over-analysis of everything, because then you won't get started only. I think at a broad level, if you're starting out, what is most critical is your personal situation, recognizing that, okay, maybe in the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, whatever, you may not earn enough money or you may not earn any money at all. Is that situation okay for you and your family? Let's get that out of the way first. That's most important. Once that is taken care of, so how does that taken care of? If you're working somewhere, you have a dream of a venture and being an entrepreneur, you make sure that you have enough money which you have put together as reserves. Supposing your monthly expense is X, you have put 36 into X aside, put it into some kind of an FD, and you're not going to touch it. That's your home coverage. Even if I don't earn anything from the venture, my whole money is there, and that's going to take profit. I won't touch it. Part is to get out of the way first. Besides that, in the business itself and the kind of risk, what are the most crucial risks? What can significantly hamper you? So if supposing you are working on a unique idea and your whole game is about getting that idea out into as a product out there first and getting at least 6 months of time when nobody else is there and you're making a mark, if it's so crucial for you, you have to be sure that that happens. So how can you make sure that you are able to do rapid work, and how to keep the entire concept very confidential, and keep an eye open for anybody else making moves in the similar area. So depending on what's crucial for you to A, survive, and B, succeed, identify those risks first, make sure that those are looked into at a reasonable depth level, and have some sort of a plan in case things go wrong. And besides that, whatever else is there, yes, I understand. I do not recommend that you keep looking at risks and keep mitigating. There's no end to it. You are right. So identify the most important ones, work on them, and others can possibly you take it when it comes, if it comes. Right. Okay, next question.
Next question is from Shahid. It says, as an entrepreneur for some years, what do you think about the technical as well as non-technical business areas which will dominate in the future with respect to India?
Well, honestly, it's an interesting question. Honestly, factor is that a lot of today's businesses can work completely ethically. Okay, maybe so. I have, besides being an entrepreneur for the last 15, 17 years, I have been in business for even longer. That's why you can see my blog is called Grey Hair Wisdom. In case you have not seen my picture, there's a lot of gray hair. So I've been around approaching 50 years of age. So I've been in business at a time when even small and mid-sized businesses who are doing their own simple work had to have a fair amount of unhealthy practices of bribing and corruption and all that. Thankfully, in the last 10, 12 years, 15 years that I've been an entrepreneur, especially in new age businesses, I mean, we've seen zero, I'm saying zero need to do anything which is wrong. I mean, we pay our taxes, we do everything above board, there is no cash payment, everything is checked. I know lots and lots of businesses who are just like that. So if you are in like one of these kinds of businesses, many of these are there, you should not really have worry. In case your business involves, your venture involves government dealing, or supplying to the government agencies, the government companies, or something of that kind, maybe that is an area where unethical practices might be required, might be in norm. But thankfully, in today's India, one can be an entrepreneur in a lot of businesses without the need to do almost any wrong in terms of ethics are concerned. So I think we are good in a lot of respects. It's good times for in India for being an entrepreneur, and this is one of the reasons which I attribute. Okay, next question.
Next question is from Rahul. He asks, trust seems to be a big problem in India. Given that scenario, how to pick a co-founder? How long do you think I should know a person before I offer him as a co-founder or take him as a co-founder?
I think basically there are no easy answers to that in terms of so I mean, ideally, whether it's a co-founder or so, for example, when you are ready with your product and somebody needs to buy first time, first 5 customers or something, they need to equally trust you, or you need to trust for getting your key employee, you need to have a trust to get your co-founders. There are no easy answers that, okay, if you know him for 6 months, it's not about those things. So that is definitely one of the risks which we take as entrepreneurs. But what we can do in order to cover yourself as well as possible is to seek third-party references. So, if you're identifying somebody as either a co-founder or a key employee, can you find out, not by asking him that who are the references you give, because he will probably give those ones who are going to give the best answers, but independently through LinkedIn or whatever, find out some other connection, the person, go and meet those persons. So I know that with a good friend I know, for every key hire he has, he goes and meets the previous employees and talks to them for half an hour at a CEO level, because he has a very small team, but it's a key team. All people are very important. So I know that he would go and meet an old employer and spend half an hour, 1 hour with them, asking a lot of details about the person. So reference checking is a very crucial area. The other is, when you're looking for a trusted person, so supposing you want to sell your product first time and nobody trusts you because you are the new guy, you have to go to people whom you know. So somebody who trusts you because he knows you from childhood or from whatever else, and you say, here's my product and I want you to try it out. I want you to be the first customer. He will do it because he knows you, and once he tries it out, using the network, the whole concept of utilizing your network becomes a very crucial factor to mitigate the trust issue, whether for hiring, whether for co-founders, whether for selling your product. Look at people you know and who will vouch for you, who will say, okay, you're a good guy. Similarly, look for people who will refer you the right people for becoming co-founders or employees, something. So potentially that's the only way. You will still make the odd mistake. You will still have an experience which, with all that something went wrong. But that's a part of the learning cycle as an entrepreneur. As you're building out, sometimes you have to make the odd mistake to learn a lot more than just go by theory. Okay. Next question.
Okay, next question is from Sahil. He asks, if you have a business idea that is in a field where there are big players and you start by catering to local interest, what would help a business grow beyond that, because the possibility of undercutting prices to large audiences would not be an option for a recent startup? If there are essential tips that one can keep in mind.
Okay. Actually, it's a long question again. Can you? I think I've got it, but can you just quickly repeat that?
Sure,
So
sure.
I know I'm sure.
He asks, if you have a business idea that is in the field where there are big players and you start catering to local interest, what would help a business grow beyond that, because the possibility of undercutting prices to a larger audience would not be an option for a recent startup? So what would be
Okay.
the tips one can keep in mind apart from this?
Okay. Okay. So first of all, if you are entering the space where there are already existing players who are large enough, you're obviously entering it for some reason. I mean, if today, I don't think anybody would want to enter a cola space knowing that, Pepsi and Coke and everybody is well entrenched. So do I pick the third great new cola? Unless I say, my cola is a cola with a difference, and this is a difference, and this is what people will like. So you would get into a space where there are already existing large players only for a reason. So I'm assuming there's a reason. Now, what could be the reasons? The reasons could be that the large players, although they are there, the demand is so high that the large players are not able to suffice, they are not able to service the entire demand that is there. That could be one reason. The other reason could be that you think that you have some edge. Either you have an edge in terms of the service quality which you may offer, or you have an edge in terms of being personalized service, so you can be personally involved in giving the service to the customers, or you feel that the big players have not reached certain local small markets which you can try and capture. So there could be a reason. Now, once you know that X is a reason, or there are 2 or 3 reasons why you are entering the space which has already got established players, you have to play to those strengths. I presume what you're saying is that the price may not be the strength. So that's important. So you may not say that I will go into a big market and I'll sell it for 1 rupee less or 2 rupees less. That may not be a long-term solution. It may not even be a short-term solution, because if by doing that, if you start hurting the big guy, they can even take a loss and make sure that they are 5 rupees cheaper than you and wipe you out. So that playing a game with a big guy only on the strength of price may not be a sustainable opportunity. But if there may be a price difference, but there is also something else. Something else could be in terms of maybe you're servicing better, you're more personalized, you're offering some value-added features which you guys are not offering or cannot offer or whatever, that play to that strength basically. Make sure that it comes out to your customers, make sure you put that out in the front, and that would be the way you will differentiate and stand up to the competition. Okay. Is there any more question? I think,
yeah, this is the last question for the day.
Right?
There's one last question for the day. It's by Ravi Teja. Okay. He's asked, how much time typically should a startup spend on market study, market data or market research to evaluate whether the product is saleable or not?
About the time you spend, it's just the data is it comes out for you. So market research effort cannot be you against. So essentially, if you're intending to sell, so if you're staying in a suburb or Niagara, and you are going to start a service which offers home delivered food, your entire area of interest is Bandra. As long as you make your skill set for this kind of food item to be delivered in Bandra, but you are creating a new software which you're going to make only 1 rupee a piece, but you think there's an opportunity of selling 10 million of that in India. Then you want to validate at a various different levels that the market is indeed there at different points and different places and different kinds of sizes markets. Once you get that sense that, okay, I think I'm getting a good feel that there is a market, there is a space, there is a price differential, there are people who will be willing to buy, and now I'm ready. So it's a question of getting a reasonably credible sense of, and basically the last thing you want to do is to get your own self. Often we are so much in love with our business idea that we want to believe what we think will be the right answer. Don't do that. Make sure that your market research is, you are completely neutral in your mind. You are willing to get feedback, which may actually point that it's not a good idea. Maybe you shouldn't do it. What if you're still in love with your idea? What you may end up doing is to then tweak it or make a change with it or make a slight the model you may change and make it still interesting and viable. But don't go by wanting to listen to the answers which you want. Listen to the real answers, understand the reality on the ground, and based on that, figure out that yes, is there a good opportunity, is there not a good opportunity, and take it on accordingly thereafter.
Okay, Sanjay, that was the last question for the day. Thank you very much for that very interesting session. Thank you to all our attendees for participating in the webinar. We are glad that the questions kept coming in, but due to lack of time, we are unable to answer all. Please do send in your feedbacks and suggestions to us at eclub@nenglobal.org. Also, if you found the session interesting, feel free to blog or post about it.